This video is brought to you by AzamSharp School. AzamSharp School hosts one of the largest catalog for iOS development videos. You can visit AzamSharp School at azamsharp.school and click on the courses to check out a huge list of courses. I also have a course on the Foundation Models Framework, which is on Device LLM, released in WWDC 2025. If you want to learn about how you can build native application, iOS and Android, then check out Skip Tools course. If you're into testing, which you should be, then check out Pragmatic Testing in iOS. I also have courses on SwiftUI architecture, and my courses have been seen for SwiftUI for large companies, and they ended up taking a lot of interest in those courses for architecture and even applying the architecture in their huge applications. So that is always good to know. Full stack development with Vapor, Swift Data, and so on. Apart from that, I also host workshops. Now, these are 3-hour live workshops, and the next one is coming up in August 22nd for Vapor. Apart from that, I also do one-on-one coaching. So if you're ever interested in one-on-one coaching, you can check out my azamsharp.school and check out the one-on-one coaching schedule and reserve your spot. So that is pretty much it. Thank you so much. I really hope that you enjoy azamsharp.school. Thank you. Let's get back to the video. All right, everyone. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to create a model that we want to return. Now, we're not really going to make an actual URL call or HTTP call, so we're just going to mock that data, but we still need the model, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and create the model. We'll call it the product model, as you can see. It has a name and it has an ID. The ID is because we are conforming to identifiable. So we need the ID anyways, okay? So that is our model. Great. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to create a function that will load products. And again, it's just going to be a fake function. You can put it inside your store, inside your services, but I want to keep things simple. So I'm just going to put it right there inside my content view. So I'm just going to call it load products, async. Keep in mind, once again, this is going to be your function that you're going to call it using your observable object, whether you call it a view model, whether you call it a store or a service. So that is where you're going to call this function, and that function will probably use some sort of HTTP client. So I'm just not using all of that stuff. I'm just trying to make a really small fake, basically a fake response, all right? Now I can call task.sleep, and we can sleep for, let's say, 2 seconds. And this is going to take 2 seconds, and this is the async function. So we're going to wrap it up with do try catch. Okay, and also await, obviously. So now we have this function. So when we are calling this function, which is going to take 2 seconds, we want to show some sort of a state to the user, like something is loading. So one of the ways that I can actually do that is I can go inside my content view, and this might be my first try of implementing these things. So I can go inside the content view and I can create loading state with a couple of different states like loading, success, and failure. Now, for the failure, we're going to get the error, right? And for the success, for this particular view, which is basically products view, we're going to get a list of products. And for loading, we're really not going to get anything, all right? In order to use the loading state, we can go and we can create a state variable. We can call it loading state. And this will be of type loading state. And we can set it to loading. That can be like our first state that we're going to put in there. Some people like to put it like idle, but you don't really need an idle because it's going to be in like a loading state, right? Like when you land on the page, the page will be loading, or some sort of a resource that you have, it will be loading. So we're just going to put it as a loading state. Now, when we go to the body of the view, over here, we can actually perform the switch on the loading state. So when it is loading, what view that we want to provide. So I can say loading. For success, I can say success. And for error, well, we can simply just go ahead and display the error itself. For the success, you're also going to get products. So probably we can go ahead and say products. And if you're getting products, why not just display the products, right? So products, again, you can use a sub view over here or some sort of a child view if you want. I'm just gonna put it right there, a list view. All right. So there we go. We have our loading state. Now currently you can see in the preview that it is always showing the loading state. And the reason is, well, initially we have set it to the loading state, right? Which is fine, but when we are loading the products, we have the opportunity to change the loading state because it's not gonna, hopefully it's not gonna get loading forever. Either the loading will be done and you will get the products hopefully, or it's going to error out, right? If it errors out, well, we can go ahead and set the loading state to failure and pass in the error. So that's nice. But if it is successful, which probably what we want, we can set the loading state to success, and we can send in whatever the things that we are getting, right? Now, in your actual application, you will be calling some sort of a HTTP client, which is going to make the call, which is going to get the data. I'm not really using all of that stuff, so I can just say that, well, if it's successful, we are going to get some products, and here are all the products. Like there are 2 products, but you can have like 200 products, whatever, and you can set it to success. So now let's see what happens after we run this application. Okay. The other thing to note over here is that although we have created load products, we never really called it. So how about we go over here into the progress view and call load products. Load products. Okay, so when we show the progress view, then it loads the products, and now you can actually see that after a couple of seconds, let me go ahead and do it again, after like 2 seconds or so, we are able to display those products. All right. Let's see what's going on. There we go. So now it's again loading 2 seconds, and then we display the products. If you want to show some sort of an error, then we will have to throw the error. So we can create like some sort of a sample error. So I can go over here. I can create a sample error. You know, it just says operation failed. And maybe over here we can call that sample error. So I can say sample error dot operation failed, just for testing it out. And let's see what's going on over here. It should have thrown this error. Okay, now I think it's going to do it. Okay, that's kind of weird. Oh, I should say throw. Sorry, I said try. All right, there we go. And there we go. So it's saying operation failed, try again later. So the sample error or the error case is actually working also. That's good. Now, this is working perfectly fine, but we may want to use the same stuff, the loading state and all that stuff, in our different view. So how can we do that? Because right now the loading state is inside the content view, but maybe we want to use the same feature of loading state in a categories view, in a user's view, or a customer's view, and so on. So how can we change this so that it can accommodate different types? Well, one of the ways that we can do that is maybe we can make it generic. And I can make a generic so that it kind of works with every single type. All right. Now you can make other constraints on this generic to say, oh, this has to be decodable or codable or encodable. But loading can be done in many different forms, right? I mean, maybe you're loading from the on-device database and those things may not be codable or decodable. Maybe you're loading it from a file system where, again, those things may not be encodable or decodable, and so on. So depending on your constraints, you can actually add those things. Now over here, we have to tell it that, because now it's a generic, so we have to tell it that, okay, what exactly are we trying to load? So I'm going to go over here and say, I'm just going to try to load an array of products. All right. So let's see what's going on over here now. So now what we are doing is we get the products. Let's go ahead and first build our application. So if we build the application, you can already see that we are getting some issues. All right. So what can we do in this particular case? I made the mistake over here in the success. It has to be simply T and not array of T. All right, because we are already mentioning over here that it will be an array of products. Okay. So let's go ahead and run it again now with this particular change. And 2 seconds and it loads. Okay, now we can even move this thing out because other views, other screens may want to use the loading state. So there's no point in keeping the loading state just for the content view. So we can just move it out. You can move it into a different file, whatever. That's perfectly fine. Okay. And yeah, that still works. Now, sometimes you want to even take it one step further. All right. Like, what if we want to extract out all of this functionality and move it into a different view, like a loading state view? So you can even do that. I mean, if that is the solution you're looking for, you can even do that. So I can go ahead and say over here, loading state view. And the loading state view is more of a container view because you can pass in over here, you can pass in the state and the content. All right, so I'll show you what it means. So we're going to say view where content is the view. In React, I think these are called as the higher order functions. So that's what we're trying to do. The loading state view is where you can pass in the loading state. So I'll say state, which will be a loading state of T. And the content. Content simply means that, well, what exactly you want to, display. The content, the view basically. What view will be served? And it is a view, so we will have to implement the body function. And now inside the body function, we can literally copy the same exact thing we were writing for the switch check. So let's go ahead and put it all there. And this is our loading state view. Now again, if you feel like that this is going to benefit in your application, then you can use that. If you think this is kind of like an overkill, then obviously don't use it. All right. So once you create the loading state view, we can go back and revisit our content view with our body. Now I can remove all of this stuff from the body. Okay. And I can probably go ahead and just start using the loading state view where I can pass in the loading state. And then I can pass in over here in the content. Well, we're going to get the products. I can list all the products. So if we go to the loading state view right there, see that? When we get this content that we're passing, we only fire this function with the success option. So when it is successful, it gives us this trailing closure where we can go and we can kind of specify that, well, if it's a success and only success, then we can go ahead and show you the list. And don't forget to call the load products, by the way. And there we go. So now it's a little bit more compact, depending on the use case that you have. And if you ever want to use the loading state with the loading, with the error and all of that stuff into a different screen, then you can just use this loading state reusable view, which is going to give you all of these features. So you don't really have to kind of like copy paste your switch block, because now all of that is encapsulated inside the loading state view. Once again, it is based on the requirements. If you think that this is going to work for you, if this is a good solution, then go ahead and use it. Otherwise, you can use other things that I provided previously. So that is pretty much it. Hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And go ahead and like the video, share the video. Thank you once again.